In this video, I want to talk about powerlifting competition strategies, and I want to consider the strategy that I used when chasing a place at the IPF World Bench Press Championships at the recent British Bench Press Nationals. I also want to discuss the strategy that I used at the All England Bench Press Championships when chasing an England place at the Commonwealth Championships later this year. Now, these competitions have been my focus, well, that my new Border Terrier pup in recent weeks, and this is why I haven't posted a video for a while, so I apologise for not posting, but I have been a little bit busy. So, competition strategy. Where to start? Well, you can obviously turn up to a meet and determine not to focus on the opposition at all. As a beginner, the focus should definitely be simply on you, producing the best results that you possibly can. If your numbers are suggesting that the competition is way below or way in excess of yours, or the sole goal of the event for you is to hit PRs, you should simply pick an attempt that aligns with your training and factor in how you feel on the day. But powerlifting at the sharp end is a competitive sport, and as top game day coach Matt Gary suggests, you can hit a PR at any time, but you may only get one shot at a title, a medal or a placing, and that placing might even get you an international selection. So when the big events come around, it can pay to take a different approach and ensure that you do just enough to win or just enough to take a particular place. And you can develop strategies to optimise your outcomes and even apply strategies to pressure the opposition into making mistakes. Ultimately, it's not always the strongest lifter that wins on meet day. Very often it's the one that uses all of the tools available to manufacture their desired result on the day. Those without an understanding of how the levers to achieve this work are at a serious disadvantage when a meet becomes a competition. So in this video I'm going to talk about the strategies you can apply in competition to optimise your placings, and I'll discuss the approaches that I've used in my latest meets. Powerlifting is a sport where lifters compete in weight classes. By manipulating your weight, you can opt to compete in a weight class that allows you to achieve a better placing. Cutting weight through clever water and sodium manipulation, and by removing the dead weight of food from the gut to weigh in lighter and then immediately put it all back on after weigh-in to compete at a heavier weight, is something that lifters, boxers and MMA fighters have done for years. You can, however, also further improve your chances by manipulating your weight within a weight class in order to be the lightest you can compared to the competitors in that weight class. This is because in the event of two lifters lifting the same weight, the lightest lifter will take the place. By cutting weight and then rehydrating and refueling after weigh-in, you can be significantly heavier at the time of the first lift. And as mass moves mass, this can give a major advantage. And as we'll see when I talk about the strategies that I've applied, this is a big thing. In addition to weight management, your attempt selections are also a key weapon, as they can pressure the competition into taking an approach that they didn't want to go with, and you can force them to take risks and adopt strategies which can ultimately make them miss lifts or hit a lower total. Trying to get your competition to miss does seem a little Machiavellian, but this is what makes national and international competitions great to watch, and I'm going to talk about legitimate strategies which the top level coaches will all use at the big events. At the Commonwealth Championships in 2024, the coach of one of the Australians that I was up against submitted 200 kilos for his opening deadlift attempt. I knew that he'd struggle with 190 in qualifying, and it was an obvious mind game. My handler and I didn't buy it, and we stuck with our original opener, recognising that this was an attempt to play with our heads. This was an attempt to try and get us to open too heavy, so this mind manipulation stuff can begin well before the first lift. You can manipulate weight, you can manipulate attempt selections, and there's also the use of lot numbers, which can be extremely helpful, although these are randomly allocated numbers and you can't rely on chance to give you a better lot number. How this works is that before weigh-in, each lifter is allocated a random lot number. A lower lot number gives the advantage of weighing in earlier than a lifter who's allocated a higher number. This is helpful if you have cut weight to make a particular weight class or have cut to get a particular body weight in that class. The earlier weigh-in gives you longer to refuel and rehydrate before your opening lift. But having a higher lot number gives the holder the advantage of lifting after an opponent who chooses the same weight but who has the lower lot number. So you get to see the opposition lift first, which is extremely useful because you can see how much they have left when you watch their openers and their seconds. And also on the final deadlift or the final bench press in a bench press only competition, this allows you to post an attempt which can force the opponent to take too big a jump, and you can then reduce your final attempt or do just enough to win if they miss. So it's an advantage to have the higher lot number in a close competition, and it's even better if you're also a lighter lifter, because if they miss the lift, the final lift, you only have to match their heaviest lift to take the placing. Now the final tool in the arsenal is what's known as the chip. In an international event, you can select an attempt that is a minimum of half a kilo above the present world record, rather than selecting the normal multiple of 2.5 that the rules require. This will enable you to add half a kilo to your overall total, but it can be more if you decide to chip squat, bench and deadlift records in the same fashion. You can also chip a record by any amount that is not a multiple of 2.5. Such as 1.5, 2, 3, 3.5, 4 or 4.5 or 5.5 even. This is extremely useful, especially on a bench press where a 2.5 kilo increment may be a million miles away from achievable. But a 0.5 or 1 kilo addition may give you enough for the win and or a record as well as a bigger total. Now you can use the same approach at a national event to chip a national record or at a divisional event to break a divisional record. For example, I hold a Masters 3 divisional squat record. On my second lift in my last divisional competition, I chipped my existing record by 0.5 kilos to make sure I extended the record. And as that went easily, I put on another 3.5 on the bar and extended it further on the final attempt. In a future video, I'll cover the cutting protocols that I followed to make weight, but here I want to focus on strategy rather than on the mechanics of simply making weight. Now I'm going to start with the approach that I used at the British Bench Press Championships this year. You can enter a competition in any weight class, but up to 21 days before the event, you can notify the organisers that you wish to change that class. I've done this on a couple of occasions. The caveat here is that if it's a national competition, you must have hit the qualifying total in an early event for both your originally chosen weight class and also the newly chosen weight class. I originally entered the 93 class at British Masters in 2023, but due to an injury that affected my ability to train and to cut weight leading into the meet, I changed up to the 105 weight class. You can also look at the entrance in one class and either enter very late, choosing the weight class that will give you the best opportunity of winning or achieving a particular place, or you can enter and change classes before the 21-day cutoff. This changing of weight classes is a tactic that's been used at the Sheffield meet, with some top lifters qualifying and turning up to compete at different body weights to optimise their chances. At this year's British Bench Press, I initially entered as a 93 kilo lifter. Now I typically sit around 95 kilos and cut weight in the last week before a meet to weigh in under 93. However, just before entries closed, I looked at the 93 kilo entries and those lifting in the 105 class. Given that my goal has always been to get a British singlet and go to Worlds, changing to the 105 class made sense, and it also avoided the suffering involved in cutting weight. There were 5 lifters entered in the 93 class, and one had a significantly higher total than me, and the second place nomination had numbers that were on a par with mine. He was beatable, but my preparation had been hampered by a shoulder issue. And the 105 class had one lifter with a much higher total than everyone else, but the other lifter that was entered I'd beaten before. Having refereed his latest bench PR in a competition 2 weeks previously, I was pretty sure I could beat him again, or at least match him and win by virtue of weighing in significantly lighter. This is where scouting the competition on openpowerlifting.com and using their YouTube and Instagram videos is worth your time if you're serious, and it's a must if you're a coach or are handling a lifter at a competition. Now at the British Bench Press, I weighed in just 200 grams over the 105 kilo weight limit. That's just 2 large cartons of pot noodles, hence the strange title of this video. Sadly, although I had the weight advantage, I didn't get the higher lot number, which would have made things a whole lot easier. Now, my Machiavellian plans received a setback at the outset, however. I figured that the other lifter who had hit 117.5, which was a PR when I refereed him, would go with a 105 opener, a 115 second and a 120 third for a new PR. I based this on his previous attempt strategies and how difficult I thought his PR lift was when he hit that in the event I refereed. I also had to factor in the fact that this was a 3-lift competition and I thought he might be able to hit a 120 PR, but I was pretty sure that he wouldn't have 122.5. Now, not having the lot number advantage meant that if I submitted the same opening weight, I would have to lift first. You can change your opening lift no later than 3 minutes before the flight starts, and so the trick here is to wait until the very last second and put in an attempt change with a weight that's 2.5 kilos above the other lifter, and without leaving them time to change their opening attempt. I submitted a 107.5 opener as a change at the last 2 or 3 seconds, and somehow his handler managed to match it. I'm convinced that the change was submitted later than the 3-minute deadline, but as a number of attempt slips were handed in together by other handlers, I guess that the people at the table just weren't looking at the clock and allowed it. My opener went easily and I played my ace card. I went straight for a matched PR of 117.5, and the other lifter's opener also went easily, but he then submitted only 115, as I expected he would. This meant that he would have to lift first. I'm presuming that he knew my PR was 117.5 and that his attempt was designed to ensure that he had enough in the tank for the final lift, which would have to be at least 2.5 kilos more than my last lift. Now, he hit 115 knowing that all he had to do, having the higher lot number, was to submit a 2.5 kilo attempt that was more than whatever I hit for my final attempt. He put in a nominal 120 kilograms with the option of making an attempt change and going higher than me if necessary, after having the advantage of watching my final lift. Now, I matched my PR at 117.5 with a pretty ugly lift on the second, and I put in 120 for a new PR on my final lift. I hit that and he was forced to take his final attempt at 122.5 to try and take silver from me. Matching my 120 wouldn't be enough because I was lighter. 122.5 would have been a 5 kilo PR. He took it and he missed it. As I suggested before the event, I predicted that he would lift 120 max based upon how his previous PR of 117.5 had looked just a few weeks earlier. I knew that if I could hit 120, that would be enough, even though I think that I actually had 122.5 had I needed it. Had this been a division event, I would have risked the 122.5 attempt, but this was about getting the silver medal at a national championship and claiming a British place at Worlds. This was where weight class choices, attempt selection and prior scouting paid dividends, and I'm now going to Poland in May as part of the British team with a silver medal from bench nationals. Incidentally, in the 93 class, the outlier didn't show, and that class was won with just 115. So cutting weight by 2 pot noodles and lifting with the 93s as originally intended would have given me a national title as well as a British call-up. So in one way my strategy backfired because I didn't win a title, but the goal was always to get to Worlds and to get that British singlet. Now, nationals were followed by All England bench last weekend. This was an event where I really got to work on a strategy. I was in the 93s this time, fancying the opportunity to beat the 93 kilo lifter who won nationals and trying to win a 3rd English bench press title and get another England call-up for the Commonwealth Championships in Winnipeg in Canada. Homework had been done and I noted that his best was 120 and that he had missed 122.5 for a PR at nationals. Now, given the short turnaround between events, I thought that I could hit 120 and come in lighter than him, and I could beat him. This was because his 122.5 attempt at British stuck on his chest. I examined his competition record and noted that he had not come in lighter than 91.8 kilos in the last 4 or 5 years. I knew that this necessitated me cutting from about 92.95 in the final week to around 91 kilos to be sure to have a weight advantage. Once again, I didn't get the lot advantage but I made weight at 91.3 and he weighed 100 grams heavier. One large pot noodle. His strategy was to open at 112.5. I figured that he would then go for 117.5 on his second and try for a 122.5 PR on his third. He would have known that I had hit 120 at British. I would normally use the late change of openers trick, but I figured that in this case a lower opener of 105 would preserve strength for a 117.5 second attempt. That would force him to lift at least 120 on his final attempt. It meant that I had to go first, but only on the opener. He matched my 117 on the second lift, but I had put in a 122.5 final attempt. I knew that I had won at the point that he hit 117.5 kilos on his second lift, because it was a real struggle. He didn't take the bait of going for 122.5 or 125 and was therefore relying on me missing my final lift. However, because I was lighter and had already hit 117.5 kilos, he was forced to opt for 120 to stay temporarily in front. He had to hit it and hope I missed it. As his earlier attempt had predicted, he missed 120 and I'd won with my second lift by virtue of having the lighter body weight. I could have walked away with the win and not taken the third attempt, or alternatively I could have dropped the final attempt to take a 120 that was already on the bar. However, with the competition already won, I marched out and took 122.5 for my final attempt and just missed out on what would have been a new PR. So while I could have matched the PR from British to set a new PR in the lighter weight 93 class, that was just a free hit at the lifetime best on offer and I was always going to take it. What all this shows is that once you get beyond the intermediate stages, where it's all about beating your own numbers, having a clear competition strategy is highly useful. And as well as lifting for Britain at Worlds, the All England Championship win means I've booked a place for the English team for Commonwealth Bench Press in Winnipeg. Now, this conservative approach does have its downside. In South Africa in 2024 at Commonwealth Championships, I went into the competition feeling capable of some big numbers. Training had gone well, and if it wasn't a big international competition with medals resting on it, I would have probably put a big PR deadlift attempt on the bar and a bigger bench press. Afterwards it felt like a bit of a missed opportunity to extend my totals, but it is what it is, and if you burn the ships you can well end up with nothing when the target is a medal. Now, I hope that this has been interesting and that you'll do the like and subscribe thing. Drop me a question or a comment, and for coaching enquiries you can contact me at the email address appearing on the screen now. Thanks once again, and I'll see you soon.